Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. I mean, there's so many things that's happening now, and one of the major items that's happening now is they have confirmation hearing on people that's going to affect you maybe the next 4 years, maybe the next 8 years, but the confirmation hearings are something that you shouldn't slide by because these individuals, they're the ones going to determine a lot of things in your life, what you pay for food, how much you pay for your car, and even probably they get some type of, what do you call that, Google or something. They might be able to Google because it's the way technology is going. But the thing that I want to just make people aware of confirmation hearings, they're probably just about over now. But you really made a big mistake when you did not watch the confirmation hearing and you did not call in, because some of these individuals, their background, you could use your computer on it. Some of their background was horrible, but what they were doing was basically trying to sell one thing to another person, you know, say, well, this is the way I really am, you know. But then due to the fact of technology, you were able to put their name in. And a lot of these confirmations, that's what's happening. People are getting the name of the individual, just like the individual that was HUD, H-U-D, and some of the others that really affect your pocketbook. In fact, I know the Wall Street Journal, they had the fact that the dollar, they said dollar sinks as your president talks it down. The more that the president-elect talked in these confirmation hearings in reference to him, the worse it got, because that a lot of things were left out. So using technology is the way to find out information. Make sure you go 2 or 3 different ways because you may not be able to get information on one system, but you can get it on another system. So keep trying. But the main thing that I was really disappointed in is enough people didn't call in on these confirmation hearings. These people had backgrounds out just horrible. One of the gentlemen that they proposed to, he went out and bought stock in, he heard one of his buddies said he bought stock in the company, and then what he did, he went out and bought some of the stock.
Right.
You know,
right.
He said bought some of the stock. So really, that's just one example of the confirmation hearing. What a farce really it is, because these guys are answering questions and they are not giving you the true position, their true position, because if the senator hadn't put this young man on the spot, I don't think that he would have understood the fact that the senator, he looked and saw where, and he verbatim, he said, where you told your aide to go out and buy some of this stock because I'm gonna be chairman of that committee.
Right.
And the irony of that situation was he had no rebuttal. He just sat there while the senator raked him through the coal about this stock that he had previous information about. Yep. and held up the committee while he sent his aide out to buy stock in that particular industry. So I don't know. Right now, they got the confirmation hearing, but if you read the Wall Street Journal, that's one of the papers, you know, dealing with money. A lot of them have problems, but this is one where, you know, the dollar sinks as your president-elect talks it down, because I think that's going to be the thing that's going to be very, very important. In fact, all of these proposals, like against things that are working, against some of the people in their own districts. I mean, you think of Section 8s and things that you associated that with poor people. But hey, it's a lot of immigrants, European immigrants, that take advantage of these like Section 8 programs, any programs that are really helping the working class. And the people in the working class that are supporting, they're not even calling in because they don't know the limitation that the bill has, and that it will affect them in the future. How much it costs for, if you got a youngster in school, how much does it cost as far as health care? The health care situation was set up, say your child could stay on your plan without any additional money and till they're 26. But now they're going to change things like that. That makes it easier for the working class, regardless of whether you are an immigrant or whether you are a citizen. And these are things that these people that they're proposing for the people is going to really come out and hurt. They won't be able to do it in a year or 2 years, but they're going to, a lot of the proposals, they're going to have a difficult time. Now, a good example of that, and with the different boycotts from the people, is that what happens is that they look at these different bills and they see the benefit that people in their district, if most of the people in their district is are Caucasian, or most of them are black, most of them are whatever, and they make decisions based on that because these are districts that they have control over, that they themselves can say, hey, look, well, you know, I'm not going to support this because I have more Caucasian in my district, I have more minorities in my district, and they use, those are the criteria that they use, is based on their particular district. Well, I guess by this time we'll know what the president-elect, he will be president of these United States. God help him. But God, help us too, you know. But what we have to do, we gotta keep an eye on him and work, make sure that he dots every I and cross every T, because you're in for a roller coaster ride. I tell you that right now. It's going to be more backstabbing than you ever seen in this administration because nobody trusts nobody else. And when you get in an environment like that, you're going to have problems. So all I can say is that make sure you get information about your local officials. If you have local elections, make sure you go out and vote and do your homework. Don't listen to Aunt Susie, Uncle John, you know, about so-and-so is good or his family was good for the last 40 years for us, you know. That's why we got this house and all that kind of stuff. You have to do your homework because your future is your future. And what you have to realize is what your parents went through, you're not going to go through. It's going to be worse with the situation now because it's, like I said earlier, it's one of the most unorganized presidential elections that I've ever seen. No respect for each other. And hey, if you don't have respect for a dog, eventually he'll bite you. You know, and that's what's happening here. But anyway, the dollar, that's what we're talking, we're still talking about the economy here. The young people. What do you think about these young people, the health and education? We have here, boy, I was so busy getting that Camara Richmond. You know, she's an icon here. You know, she has been in, her and her mother Joan. They come in on the programs and we talk about the hot stuff that's happening. Some of the things you may not be interested in. But hey, tell us a little bit about the movies that is coming out. You know, they got about 5 movies that are associated with African America. Why is it all of a sudden they feel that the female is capable of a starring role in the film?
Well, I want to tell you about, this has just been the last week or two that I've seen 2 great movies, and I've been to the museum. So the first movie that I saw was Fences with Denzel Washington. And
well, Denzel Washington, he's number 1.
Number 1, but it is a very complex story. And what's really interesting about the story, one of the characters says they're building a fence. And one of the characters says... This is not the
Mexico fence, is it?
No.
I don't know. When you say fence, this first thing I think about our president-elect. He's going to build. So this has nothing to do with the Mexican fence.
Not the Mexican.
Okay, all
but
right.
One of the characters says that fences, because they're going through, having this fence belt. And so the character goes, some people build fences to keep other people in, and some people build fences so that other people can't get out. And that's kind of the story. It's very complex. I don't want to give it away, but if anyone has seen the play, then they kind of know the deal. But so I suggest everyone see that. And let's see, I have my little list here of Hidden Figures, which was, Fences, of course, was phenomenal, but Hidden Figures was equally great. So all these years, I never knew that there were Black women in NASA that helped with the space program.
And the idea is, this is a true story, and they did it through the fact that they had authentic evidence where she was actually working into the NASA system, and they showed a photo of her.
It was, and I know President Obama, and I'll go through the list of who we have. So we have Octavia Spencer, and she plays Dorothy Vaughan. We have Taraji P. Henson, and she plays Katherine Johnson. And about a year or 2 ago, President Obama gave her a medal. And we have Janelle Monáe.
That was Octavia.
That was
the medal.
No, it was for actually Katherine Johnson, who's the lead in the film. And then we have Janelle Monáe, who plays Mary Jackson. But with Katherine Johnson, so they're looking for someone to help, of course, with the space program. America wants to put someone on in space before Russia does. But of course, Russia gets it first.
That was the background,
Yeah, so they were looking for a mathematician, and so someone said, well, yeah, I know someone, and so they give the name Katherine Johnson, and she is this brilliant mathematician. They needed math that hadn't even been designed yet. They needed someone that could go beyond math.
Right.
And so
I thought about myself, pi r squared, and
she takes that to a whole different level.
Right.
So they rely on her to get into space. And I've never heard the story of these 3 incredible women in my entire life, and this is NASA. And the other part of the movie is you see that there were maybe 30-some that were working in the program that were all African American.
African American, right? Which is unusual.
You never knew when the movie kind of starts. Octavia Spencer's character, her car breaks down, and so there is a policeman that's coming up, and he's Caucasian, and so they're like, "Well, sir, we work for NASA." And he was like, I didn't know that they let. And Octavia Spencer goes, yes, we have a lot of women at NASA, sir, which was so interesting. And so I suggest that people go see that. It's a great story. It has you riveted from beginning to end. I had tears in my eyes because these were just beautiful stories. And to see Janelle Monáe's character wanted to be a engineer. Well, she couldn't be an engineer. She says, you know, I'm a black woman, or then, you know, I'm Negro, I'm a woman. How's that going to happen?
Yeah.
And so
And then
if
they
she got her
changed the
degree,
requirements.
so she said she got her degree, and
Right.
so she became the engineer. And Octavia Spencer's character, there was something going on with the equipment, but she just fixed like right away. And she became the manager. It's a whole story. I don't want to tell the whole story.
Yeah.
I'm about to tell it all.
But
and I don't
actually,
want to.
I think it was very, very positive because the image has been painted by this country of African American, specifically women, was negative, has always been negative.
Right.
That they had nothing to contribute. And the movie itself shows that individual, although you had problems, I think all of us had problems. Back in those days there, I was trying to get a position, CEO position with the Department of Agriculture, but the fact that they didn't have any CEOs, you know what I mean, that was the thing that stopped me, not my ability to do the work. So I understand, and the young people, I think they had a message there. Young people need to understand is that the doors may be open, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have a difficult time, because every time that one door opened, another one closed. For instance, what she overcome is that she knew the requirements for that position at NASA. She acquired them, came back to be hired, and they told her, say, requirements have been changed. Now you have to have another degree. And she didn't let that stop her from being successful. And that's what the young people, this is true. This is what you're going to run into. This is the reality of the world today, is that you're going to be judged first by your appearance. See, that's the first thing. I know myself, being a research chemist, I went to one of the leading pharmaceutical companies in Delaware, and I was told, although I was dressed appropriately, they said, "Sir," and the secretary was not being nasty. She said, "But all custodian jobs have been taken."
Right.
And here I have degrees in chemistry. But that is still happening. And that's the point I think that the movie brought out, is the fact that although you may have the qualification, you're still going to run into the problems with people accepting you simply because you are a minority.
Right, and we know this, that you have to be exceptional.
Right.
You
can't be ordinary.
You can't be ordinary. You have to be exceptional. And two other things I want to mention in the movie is I really want people to see it, because for her to engineer what she had to go through, which is to be the first, I mean, it was just awesome. And for Taraji's piece, her character, Katherine Johnson, the astronaut, John Glenn, he said, if she has the math right, then I will go into space.
Right. Because
So
he showed faith in her, regardless of her color, whether she was African American or whatever. He felt that he had confidence in her work.
He said the girl, the smart girl. He didn't say the smart African American woman or the black girl, whatever, or the Negro girl. He just said the smart girl. If she says the math is okay, then I'll go. And that is so telling, because what one of the women was saying is that at NASA, they really wanted you to know how to do the work. It just wasn't about color. They really wanted you to do the work. So that was interesting. And I went to, and you had told me about this before, the museum, the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I went, spent half the day there.
It's easy. It's easy to do that.
11:45 to
So many
5:30.
things.
And I spent probably maybe 2 hours just on slavery alone. And I took lots of pictures of different quotes from different slaves and from different well-known artists, and a lot of pictures of where we had come from and where we were going. So by the time we got through slavery, we had very little time to go through the second, third, and fourth floors.
Right.
So it's definitely
takes time.
a museum that you'll have to go to several times. It is just so much history and the artifacts. Like I took a picture of the Bible of, his name just slipped me, Nat Turner.
Nat Turner.
But there were so many little small artifacts and large ones that really tell a lot of the history of what African Americans have really done for this country. Like our wonderful First Lady that says she's in a home that was built by slaves, by her ancestors.
But that's not emphasized. They emphasize the other historical thing. And the thing that I think that minorities should, as far as this country, need to learn from is that being together. After this young lady in the movie, after they promoted her, she made sure that the rest of her team were part of it.
Right.
She said that they just wanted, which in most cases, they just pick someone that they feel, and this is the person. But she insisted that her entire team be promoted to that level of at NASA. And I think that's what the young people need to see, that how it works. A team,
team effort.
Right. Once you have a team effort behind, and it has been positive for the African American, for the Spanish too. Once you develop a team atmosphere, and they go, what happened is they usually go for the weakest. They figure, if I can get you a promotion, then you have the money, then you say the heck with the rest of them. They go for themselves. But they indicated in that movie that working together is the key to success.
It really is, and from our experience, sometimes once you like get yours, you don't really care. Once you've got the money, you've moved out of the hood, hey, I have mine, somebody else is going to have to get theirs.
Right.
But when you say my whole team, she said, you know what, my girls are ready.
Yeah.
So
well, that was very significant, and that's the part that I really enjoyed. And the young people that were in the theater, they they made clapped a few times when that happened, knowing that the key to success was the fact that she brought along with her her whole team.
Right. And the other thing is too, we were talking about a little bit about education. How is it that 50 some years later that you're just finding out this information?
Yes, right.
So we have to really look at the school system. What is Black History Month now?
Right.
They're not teaching a lot of Black history.
Yeah, a lot of that is going on now. A lot of it went on before, because I was in the integrated area going to school, and my parents asked me about going to college, and I said, well, the area that I was in, the University of Pennsylvania, Villanova, Temple, and all, but in high school, I got very little African American history. They talk about George Washington Carver, and that was just it. And that was insignificant. So I chose, and I think a lot of people, before you make that decision, you think in terms of the African American college that are here, because most of the people have been successful. Their grassroots came from the African American college. And so
Right, absolutely.
there's a different type of history that they teach in the African American history in the colleges that the other universities, Harvard and all, they never touch on. They don't tell you about the days that that you didn't have any light, or the kerosene lamp burned down, or the different trials and tribulations that people had to do for basic things like eating and sleeping for safety.
Right, and I didn't really know my history until I went to college.
Right.
And so my minor was then it was called Afro-American Studies. That's when I could read all of the books and have discussions with my classmates because, like you said, what you learned in school, it
well,
wasn't
actually,
a lot
the
of it.
system they need to rework the system as far as history is concerned, and as far as African American and minorities, because they have what they've done, they've actually portrayed the minorities as negative fashion. They show the cotton gins and things like that.
Right.
But there's so many things like your different contributions that have been made that were stolen from African Americans.
And you would never know.
Like they're trying to do now with the Indians out there in Oklahoma. They're trying to take the land there for a pipeline. So regardless of the history of the land there, the destruction, they'll do it for money. So, and
just a little bit on climate change, because I think it's so important, talking about that pipeline. With Donald Trump, there will be jobs, but at what expense to the planet? So they'll do these pipelines. They'll have, the oil and the coal and all of that come back. So you have those jobs, but there are a lot of green jobs where people are making a lot of money, starting businesses and being, hopeful and being, saying, okay, we really do have to work on climate change. And so with his administration, that's one thing that really
those are projects, and
really scares me.
Well, we have to close now, but those are projects that's going on. But what we have to realize is that different projects like that, you have to organize yourself to the point that you get people into office. I mean, this is come from the homework that's going to be beneficial to the development of your organization, because that's not happening now. And that's one of the major items is, hey, vote, 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 vote. I mean, if it's civic association, state, or whatever, the job, if it takes a vote to make sure that individual is doing the job for you. That's positive view, like you were saying, different things.
Not just the president.
Yeah, not just the president. We put emphasis on the highest office, but the idea is that you got to get involved in the economics of this country. And this is what I always say, hey, start a business. That's what you need. See you next time.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can stop to make sure someone is okay.
We can warn someone when their drink isn't safe.
And disrupt the situation.
We can
get someone a cab.
Or walk them home safely.
We can make campuses safer for our friends.
Our roommates.
Our classmates. Our fellow human beings.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can. Intervene. It's on us.
all of us.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.